Well, there's one thing I strongly disagree with what just took place there, and what that is that the kids involved in the assault of Mr. Mew were not prosecuted. And just because Mr. Mew did what he did, which was way out of line and wrong, and I think does deserve the sentencing he got here, I think when you do this and you don't prosecute the kids involved with the assault that they initiated, you're sending a message. I guess they feel like their friend died, so that was enough consequence for them. Maybe that is the case. I don't know. Maybe, there's also the issue of publicity, right? Everyone would have cried, bloody murder if they prosecuted those kids. But I think the law has to be applied equally if we're going to do it. If you committed a crime within that video, you should be prosecuted. All right, guys, we're back again with the PEM podcast. I'm Dorian, and we're going to be doing our normal episode today, looking at some videos, and had a very interesting week. It's been a week of building the business, of working to sew up the last of the design for the web platform for Psychedelist, and it's just been an interesting transition as we're starting to head closer and closer to fall. This has been an intense summer. The struggles of building a business, the struggles of dealing with mental health, in general, with folks that are struggling with their own problems and facing their own difficulties. It's been a wild ride with that. I myself had a pretty intense summer, just juggling the financial aspect and dealing with my own personal growth and being able to look at, my own actions. Some people were upset about certain things I did. I had to take an interesting perspective on relationships during that period. It's funny, I don't think this will be pertinent at all to the videos we're probably going to get into, but I had a situation with a woman that I was seeing where the end result, in order to repair the relationship, I had to say to her that I believe we were experiencing a different version of reality. It's funny because I forget the comedian's name, but there's a rather heavy-set, overweight comedian, I forget his name, and he talks about relationships with women. And he talks about how you have two choices, being right or being happy. I don't know that that's accurate 100%, because sometimes there are husbands and boyfriends out there who are henpecked, who are actually dominated and even bullied. We have a personal friend who falls under that category, where he will say things like, after coming from a guy's lunch out or something like that, "Oh, thank you so much, honey, for allowing me to go out with my friends." So, there's that side of it. There's a lot of things that go on. So being right, yes, it can be an egoic thing, that then if that's your only focus, that can be a problem. For me, I'm looking for solutions to problems. And sometimes if you're just going to cave every time to someone who starts to show certain disrespectful behavior or certain aggressive, possibly over-dominating, over-domineering behavior, and you continue to acquiesce to that, the results are never really good. If you do that with a bully, you'll find the bully's just going to keep bullying you. That goes all the way from a schoolyard bully to, political bully, or to, in the dating world. There's all kinds of bullies. So that's a delicate balance. With this individual, where we arrived was that there was an incident that took place that really set things off between her and I experienced the timing of events and the chronological order of events differently than she did, and even experienced text messaging different than she did. Now, I don't have the original text messages. I believe I erased them. It's not even worth going back, and that would only spark more argument. But I'm pretty sure I was dead sober. I wasn't on anything. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't tired. I wasn't sleepy. I was having morning coffee, and I experienced a very different version than she did. Very interesting, right? Now, what does that mean? I have no idea what it means. It means her past trauma, her own ego, her personal bias. Am I completely seeing reality the wrong way? It was really interesting. So I just said, hey, I think we're living in two different dimensions of reality here, and it's sort of like an episode of The Twilight Zone. The funny thing is she went, oh, okay, I think we can agree on that then, which is really funny. So that was kind of the beginning of something, and there were some times where I was not as kind as I probably should have been, or as understanding, or utilized as much restraint, ego mitigation, all those factors probably played a role in it. So it was interesting to see, but I think it's funny sometimes when we start talking about women and how many men will say, hey, you can't win an argument with a woman. Yeah, it's very interesting what I had to do there. It was quite a tricky game to finally arrive at a place where it's like, hey, this is a Rod Sterling episode of The Twilight Zone, and we're just living out two versions of reality in different dimensions. And that was an acceptable answer to her. So that was my week. There's a lot more to it. I'm not going to get into it. We're going to do an interesting episode, sounds like. So we're going to hop into that and see what we got, guys.
The man who stabbed 5 people in this deadly confrontation during a tubing adventure took the stand at his murder trial and says he thought they were going to kill him.
I was surrounded. People were coming at me. I just came up a couple of times, being punched in the head, punched in the mouth. I fell on river rocks. I was in pain. I was afraid for my life.
One teen he stabbed, Isaac Schumann, bled to death. The video shows 54-year-old Nikolai Mew being attacked by the teens who believed he was hassling them. He pulls a knife and lashes out. Mew, a mechanical engineer, is claiming self-defense, but prosecutors said his actions after the stabbing were those of a guilty person. He fled the scene, he threw away his knife, and when he was arrested, he lied to police. Mew falsely claimed the youths had knives.
He had a knife on him. When the kid attacked me, I took that from him.
If this was self-defense, why wouldn't you just stand there, have someone call 911 with your knife in your hand and say, these guys attacked me, I was
How long is this video?
I defended myself. That's your knife, right? In a moment of drama, Mew was shown the knife he used in court. That's the knife you used to stab these people.
That's the knife I used to defend myself with.
The tragic incident took place at a popular tubing spot on the Apple River in Hudson, Wisconsin. In closing arguments, Mew's attorney said it was a case of 13 against 1. They swore at him.
All right, so when it comes to self-defense, I'm again, I always have to preface that I'm not an attorney. I watch, a lot of civil rights attorney involvement videos and follow a couple guys. My favorite is, I think his name's John Bryant, the Civil Rights Attorney channel. He does a great job of explaining things like self-defense and use of force, especially involving law enforcement. He does a lot of that. What I understand here is we got a disparity of force. If what we're being told, kind of the story that's being portrayed, is a disparity of force. 13 was the word they used there, 13 against 1. That's a large enough disparity of force where it could be justifiable to use deadly force. That's my understanding of the law, again, as a non-attorney. But what he did afterwards, so he fled the scene, he tried to hide the knife, I guess, tried to disappear, and then that makes him guilty. I think those are laws that he broke there, but I don't know that that makes you guilty. I might do something similar. In a case where, you don't know what the outcome is going to be and you really did feel like you defended your life and yet you could be facing serious hard prison time, it's interesting how they paint things when they're in court, but I just got, I have a story. It's funny because I was actually going to bring this story up today. The young woman I was talking about that I had this interesting argument with, she's had a wake-up call to the damaged criminal justice system and law enforcement system that we live with. In one instance, she was busted for drinking on a beach in San Diego Bay. And it's illegal. You're not supposed to have alcohol. She had those little wines, whatever they are. They look like a baseball. They're like a ball. It's a little wine. She had a few of those. She definitely had been drinking. She was on the water in her paddleboard. She was not as discreet as she should have been. The police, found her stash, I guess, basically, and then called her forward. And I don't know if they were going to ticket her or what. She had a big mouth. She talked a lot of shit. She did. She said some things probably shouldn't have said. but then she was there was definitely an excessive use of force. She was handcuffed, slammed headfirst into a parked police unit. She was punched in the mouth. This is all while she was handcuffed. That's illegal. That's definitely an excessive use of force case. She was then taken to a jail where it was, very air conditioned, cold, floors and walls and everything. She was in a bathing suit, bikini bathing suit. She was left for many hours in the cell without being given any dress blues or dress oranges or anything like that. A lot of questionable things were done, and that was her first wake-up call. But later, she experienced violence on 2 separate occasions, I believe. One was at a bar in North County, San Diego, where she was struck by a man, I think picked up and slammed on a table. Again, she probably was saying some things she shouldn't have said. Nobody did anything about that. The bouncers helped the guy escape. Police did not step in, so she started to feel, that the system is messed up. And then she was at I believe she was at a Padres game or an event at Petco Park. She was, of course, drinking again. I think John Correa does a good job of talking about this, like being at stupid places at stupid times with stupid people. That usually leads to stupid things, and you gotta keep that in mind. You're gonna be drinking, you're out with rowdy people. Some sort of altercation happened in a bathroom, a woman's bathroom, and this young woman was sucker punched in the face and knocked unconscious. When she woke up, her friend was defending her. Her friend also took some lumps, but was okay. They survived. She had been concussed, and I don't know if she had other injuries. Police were contacted. Petco Park seems to be protecting the guilty parties here and claiming that there's no video surveillance of the section of seating and area where that took place and where that bathroom was. The point is there's a lot more examples of that's rather mild stuff, honestly. We look at the woman who had the boiling pot of hot water and got shot in the face because she had a boiling pot of hot water, I guess, by law enforcement. And there's so many other instances, right? So a man who now has stabbed a few teens, who, let's give him the benefit of the doubt for now. This is just devil's advocate. I'm not saying this is what happened. But for the benefit of the doubt, let's say he's in the water. He feels like he's drowning. He's being punched in the face. He's being pushed into the water by 13 teenagers, right? And I haven't seen these teenagers, but it doesn't sound like they were, 12, 13-year-olds. They're probably like 16, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, I don't know. Fears for his life, thinks he may be drowned or killed by this mob, pulls a knife and starts stabbing people. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt and think let's say that's what happened. Then he decides, oh shit, these are teenagers, been stabbed. How old is he? 50-something-year-old man. How's this going to look to the police? How, good is our system? Well, it doesn't look that great. I could understand maybe why you might run, is what I'm trying to say. So to then paint him in the light of like he's guilty because he did that, that's tough. Guilty people. A guilty person would do that. They would definitely do that. But maybe someone who defended themselves might do that as well. I know my mentor, I'm not going to say his name in relation to this statement, but I know my mentor said that if it was a situation in which he had to put someone down and, it appeared that there weren't really witnesses, he would leave the scene. And if they were to contact him, he would probably have put it in a better way. Like, hey, I needed to get out of there. I was afraid I was still unsafe at the time, and maybe paint a different picture. But, yeah, that's where I'm at so far with this, guys. I think there was definitely some stupid people doing stupid things that led to bad things happening, probably. I think we're going to see more about that next. So, yeah, let's move on and see what we actually got I guess we have the video of this. I'm looking at his waistband. I don't see a knife yet. So where did this knife come from? Oh, he's got it. A folding blade in his pocket. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so they're not small guys. That's one thing I'm noticing right away, guys. So that is a problem. It's a lot of them. Do we know if there's alcohol involved in this? What's he got in his hand there? Is that alcohol?
Looks like it,
Yeah.
And usually things like this, they're drinking.
Oh yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, Susan, yeah.
Mm.
Now they're getting handsy.
Why isn't the old man leaving? Just get the hell out of there. You're in danger. Yeah, maybe you are in danger. Okay, now he's pushed down.
Now we slap him in the face.
Yeah.
Push him more. Whoop, he just got stabbed.
Oh, did he stab right there?
Yep.
The old man did?
Yeah, it's in his
Oh,
hand right
wow, he stabbed him already.
Hang on 1 sec.
Wow, that happened real fast. Hang on, I'm gonna put my glasses on for that. Let me see.
So you see it right away.
Let me see. They
Right,
pushed him
right
down.
As he gets up, right as he gets up. It's
Oh, he pulled it out of his right pocket?
Yep. Right here. Boom.
Boom! Yeah, that was it. Damn, that was fast.
Yep, and then.
Oh, there it is.
And they still don't notice it.
No, you don't feel stabbing that. Oh, she been stabbed.
Yep.
Oh, she's been stabbed.
Yep. And then you can see all the blood in the water.
Whoa. Yeah. Yeah, that changed the game.
And then they yelled at one kid that died, he's dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now they're not laughing anymore, huh?
It's a problem with ego, man.
Yeah.
Kids just don't have the understanding of how serious shit is. Yeah, that's the end of that. Tragic, man. Stupid. Yeah, so it had to be a folding blade. Damn, there's a lot of blood in that water.
Yeah.
How many people were stabbed?
I think 5.
Wow, he stabbed 5 people in that.
So, yeah.
Man, that happened fast.
Yeah.
I do think that there may be a case for justifiable use of force there on his part. I don't know enough about the law at what point it's justifiable and at what point it's not. It didn't seem like he chased anyone down. I mean, that video is kind of chaotic, so it didn't seem like he chased anyone down and kept stabbing, It did seem like he stabbed people that were close to him and maybe he perceived as coming at him or within his reach. So, that's hard to say, but yeah, those teenagers they were the size of grown men. They were definitely big dudes, probably athletes, football players, soccer players, basketball players. It's nothing to mess with. The old man should have left, shouldn't have done what he did. And so, hey, there is a law there. So this is interesting. But what did he do? There's a law, and I forget what the law is when it comes, if it's individual to each state. It may be, I don't know if it's federal law, but the law is this. If you instigate the fight, you initiate the aggression, then you can't claim self-defense later. So there is a law based on that. So that's important to understand here, guys. Can we say that the old man initiated? I don't think so. I never saw him raise his hands. I never saw him do anything physically aggressive. He could have been, verbally disparaging. Calling him a male Karen. Maybe he was. I didn't really understand what he was doing there. Like, he's upset about them doing something apparently, and goes over and messes with their inner tubes. So yeah, that seems a little odd. And just, why don't you mind your own business? But I don't know that it applies to the law that I'm talking about, because I don't know. Did he use fighting words? I couldn't hear enough to hear if he said "fuck you" or anything like confrontational. Because if he initiated that fight by being verbally aggressive or by, you know, insulting or doing something like that, that could put him into a gray area where now it's a problem. He instigated the fight, then he pulls the blade based off of the way they respond, and now I don't know that he can claim self-defense. So I think that's why I don't, you know, unless, like if they were over there molesting some girl or doing some really messed up stuff and you have to get involved, that's a different story. But what do you get involved in that for? Like, leave these kids alone. So, but then the kids don't understand the dangers of, you know, physical confrontation, and they didn't watch his hands, and that's how fast it happened. That happened very fast. I didn't see him stab 5 people. I guess the video is like shaking. Saw the woman and her stab wound on the. That's a dangerous stab wound, by the way, on the left side. The spleen's over there, and there's these arteries coming down from the heart. I've seen people bleed out within, you know, a few seconds. We're talking 15, 20 seconds. I've seen people just bleed out and die from being stabbed on this side of the body here. It's all bad. You don't want to be stabbed anywhere in there. Yeah, that's it's unfortunate tragedy there. And yeah, they're both parties in this are playing with fire for no reason on a sunny day, right? Look at that beautiful day out on the water, and it turns into death. That's wild. That is, whoa. Yeah. So we're gonna hear there's a verdict. So right, we're gonna get to find out what the jury decided. Let's see what the jury decided. We'll comment some more on it. But yeah, that's why. I was just talking to someone who was in martial arts, and we were just talking about all this stuff about how people, like, there's people in the martial arts community and world who say like, oh, jiu-jitsu is the best art, you know, or whatever art's the best art, and my art's the best art, and then have like big egos in the gym and want to like kind of tear each other's heads off, and then that can escalate to a fight that even I've seen it in gyms where people want to go to the parking lot, you know, and it's like, this isn't real until it gets real, and then there's no going back, and it's like, it's not worth it. It's not worth the ego. It just isn't worth it whatsoever, because now, yeah, everyone's life is destroyed here, and this guy who stabbed those people, like, he might make it through this. We'll see what the outcome is on the criminal case, but as you know from the OJ case, he could be facing civil now too. So this doesn't go away. It's a serious problem, and I think on the civil side, there might be more of a case, right? Because he's being a Karen, he's messing with these people. He could have walked away. So I imagine he's got headaches for days, man. No matter what the verdict is on this case, it's just not worth it. Yeah, let's see what's next. Yeah, that's a good point, Shakira. It's a really good point. What are you doing? Like, just get out of here. Just leave. And yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's in deep water there. It's very gray zone there. But yeah, it was not a prudent, you know, cautious, sane, you know, level-headed way to approach that situation at all. And so I think, yeah, he's got some serious things to deal with. Yeah, she's screwed. You see that over there on that side of her body? She's lucky. It looks like they missed an artery, but...
They're yelling at me. At one point, they were pointing downriver and saying, go, get away.
He has the option of just walking away, instead he takes out his knife.
Oh.
Yes.
Do you have your knife in your right hand?
Yes.
That's
At that
bad.
point, he had the knife down at his side, or in front of him, if you will.
He doesn't look down. He doesn't announce that he has a knife, and he has it in a position.
I missed
where
that part,
it
guys.
doesn't
That's a
appear
real problem.
He is ready to use it.
He never told them to move, with or without the knife. He didn't try to back up himself. He didn't yell out, help me.
He opens that blade up, still smirking.
What also struck me is the look on his face as he's doing
Yeah, he
these
looks...
things. He had some weird smiles. He was smirking. He was scowling. That's the look on your face.
Yeah,
That's an angry look.
not to me.
Bad situation.
I was annoyed, more than frustrated, but not angry.
Seeing him fiddling with the knife and then pulling the knife out and comparing it with what's on his face, to me was important. I mean, it was bizarre.
Yeah, that's dangerous stuff. So the video makes it hard to see. You know, I was looking for the knife, but then kind of looking at what everyone else was doing, and I didn't see him pull the knife. So that's before I thought, because I had missed that, I had thought that he had pulled the knife when he was in the water, and then when he had been shoved down in the water, that he had pulled the knife then. That's not when it happened. So he already had the knife in his hand. That shows you how important awareness is. So me, if I'm in that situation and I'm on the other side of it with the teenagers, I'm watching his hands. So I would have seen that knife in that circumstance and been like, whoa, we got a real problem. But the fact that he did that there, has the knife drawn, and is not trying to get away, I think he's in danger of being convicted now. Yeah, I think he's got real big problems. That was, yeah, I have to question his motives as well, because at that point, I don't see the motive as being self-defense. It doesn't appear that way to me. It definitely appears to me to be an escalation and an ego battle at that point. That's and I don't think the kids. It doesn't appear that the kids saw the knife, right? I don't think anyone saw that knife. And that's what happens when you're drinking and you're being stupid and you don't realize, that somebody's got an. And that's all it takes. That knife's not very big. What is that knife? Maybe 3 inches, probably less than 3 inches to look like. That's all it takes to kill you. That's crazy. That colors the way this case looks, and definitely makes me, if I'm on the jury, I'm starting to lean towards convicting this guy, to be honest with you. I'm a self-defense guy, and I don't like what those kids did, but, I think we're headed into manslaughter territory now. Bad news there. All right. So, that's all I got to say there. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And now he's down.
I would find it incredibly hard to believe that somebody sitting or standing in that position after he's gotten knocked down into the water and he's been hit and he's been, by multiple people, that somebody in that situation would not believe that they were being harmed, would not be afraid.
Yeah, I don't think that's the argument, though.
With the knife in his right hand.
No one else realized he had a knife.
True.
So there are people that are sort of going in, jumping on, trying to push, trying to shove, that don't realize there's a knife and people are being stabbed.
As AJ is pushing Nikolai,
Is that the guy who died?
Nikolai stabs into his lower abdomen with the blade up, slices into his stomach.
Maybe that's the guy who died, yeah. So yeah, that's just how dangerous it is for people out there to understand about stabbings, about weapons in general, and how quickly it can turn on you, and why you have to be so careful out there. I don't think the argument is at the point in time that we're looking at that the guy is not, couldn't justifiably claim, fear for his safety and possibly even, fear for his life. I think that that's an easy argument probably to make in that instance of the video. The problem is that it's a whole movie, so to speak. So this is something that my mentor talks about a lot, that a lot of times people like to take snapshots, right? It's funny, kind of the argument I was having with the woman I was telling you about, it's interesting because I find that a lot of times in discussions and arguments with people, and I won't just single out a gender here, but sometimes people want to just focus on one little part, like a snapshot of the movie, and say, see, look at what an asshole you were in that moment. And it's like, yeah, but you're not showing the part where you spit in my face. You know what I mean? You're just showing what happened after. You don't want to show like what led up to that. And that's part of the problem with the snapshots. In this case, it's actually the reverse of that. Yeah, in that snapshot there, I think it's easily justifiable to say, sure, he was, in fear for his safety and possibly in fear for his life. But remember that law that I mentioned, I don't know what that law actually, if it's a particular state law, if it's a federal law, but I think that when it comes to self-defense law, I think it has to do with state by state. So it must be a state law, and I don't think it's a California law. But I think that a lot of states have similar laws. And if you instigate a fight and cause, and start a fight with someone and then claim self-defense, I don't think it's arguable in court. I think you find yourself really in a deficit in your argument. So, yeah, in that moment, I think he could easily say he was in fear for his life, but the problem is what led up to that. The problem is that he has the knife out before he's shoved down in the water, before he's been pushed. And I actually didn't see a punch to the face. Did you see any actual punches to the face? I saw a slap. I saw like a push. I didn't see an actual, like, you know what I mean? No, I didn't see that. And that, I'm not saying, you know, still there's some concern there. You know, obviously we've crossed a line into physical assault, fair enough. Yeah, he had that knife out. Before that happened, like I said, that colors the whole thing for me, really changes the whole narrative on what's taking place, and the fact that he could have left. And that's kind of, depending on what state you're in, like, you know, walk, talk, run. And that's what you're taught in a lot of, like, people who know and understand self-defense. It's always walk, talk, run first, right? And he didn't walk, talk, run. And it seemed that he escalated, and it became an ego battle, and then it led to this. And I think he's in a lot of trouble. I think he's got serious problems for his case. So that's what I think. I mean, to me, this stuff's fairly cut and dry. You kind of can see it. Like, it's pretty clear, guys, to me. Like, both parties are in the wrong. The problem is that this man used deadly force. He had a chance to exit the scene without using deadly force. He chooses to use deadly force. He's got real problems.
The verdicts read as follows. As to count one of the information, Isaac Schumann, the jury finds Nikolai Mew guilty of first-degree reckless homicide as submitted. Question, did Mr. Mew commit the crime while using a dangerous weapon? Answer, yes. As to count two of the information, Alexander Martin, the jury finds Nikolai Mew guilty of first-degree recklessly endangering safety as submitted. Did Mr. Mew commit the crime while using a dangerous weapon? Answer, yes.
Yeah.
As to count three of the information, Dante Carlson, the jury finds Nikolai Mew guilty of first-degree recklessly endangering safety as submitted. Did Mr. Mew commit the crime while using a dangerous weapon? Answer, yes. As to count four of the information, Anthony Carlson, the jury finds Nikolai Mew guilty of first-degree recklessly endangering safety as submitted. Did Mr. Mew commit the crime while using a dangerous weapon? Answer, yes. As to count five of the information, Riley Madison, the jury finds Nikolai Mew guilty of first-degree recklessly endangering safety as submitted. Did Mr. Mew commit the crime while using a dangerous weapon? Answer, yes. As to count six of the information, Madison Cullen, the jury finds Nikolai Mew guilty of battery as charged. Did Mr. Mew commit the crime while using a dangerous weapon? Answer, yes.
Okay, guilty, but not on the top charge.
The lesser included charge of first-degree reckless homicide and first-degree endangering of safety. That's for those who were stabbed but survived.
Be seated. Based on the unanimous verdict, I will enter convictions on each of the 6 counts. Bail is revoked. Mr. Mew will be held in custody pending sentencing. My staff will contact the attorneys and will schedule the sentencing date. I will order a pre-sentence investigation report, but we can do the scheduling at a later time. Is there anything else, Mr. Anderson? No. Mr. Schroffelsing? No. All right. Thank you, everyone. Court is adjourned.
Ouch. Well, there's one thing I strongly disagree with what just took place there, and what that is that the kids involved in the assault of Mr. Mew were not prosecuted. And just because Mr. Mew did what he did, which was way out of line and wrong, and I think does deserve the sentencing he got here, I think when you do this and you don't prosecute the kids involved with the assault that they initiated, that you're sending a message. I guess they feel like their friend died, so that was enough consequence for them. Maybe that is the case. I don't know. Maybe, there's also the issue of publicity, right? Everyone would have cried, bloody murder if they prosecuted those kids. But I think the law has to be applied equally if we're going to do it. If you committed a crime within that video, you should be prosecuted. I don't know if it should be a really harsh sentence or anything like that, but we should say, hey, look, you guys all caused this. Everybody involved here created the problem, right? And sure, Mr. Mew was more at fault than anyone here, I definitely agree with that. I think we should hold everyone accountable all the time, because that way it shows an equal enforcement of the law for anyone who breaks it. I'm not a fan of law enforcement. I'm not a fan of Karens. I'm not a fan of any of this crap. But I do think it needs to be applied equally, and that when people break the law, if we're going to prosecute people for their actions, especially in contributing to an event like this, that they all should be prosecuted based on whatever their, crime and involvement was. It's clear that he was assaulted. Mr. Mew was definitely assaulted, and he instigated it. Yes, he pulled a knife. Yes, and he's getting what should come to him for that. But that's what I disagree with, is that I think we need to, paint the legal brush evenly across everyone, and send a strong message that it won't be tolerated at all, especially when it comes to violence. Violence is a real problem. I don't advocate for violence at all. When we get into other victimless crimes, total different deal. But that sucks. Sucks to be Mr. Mew. I wonder what time he's getting for that. He's going to get a good amount, I'm sure, quite a bit. He might be. It's conceivable he could be dying in that prison. Anyway, don't get in altercations with people. It's not worth it. Walk away, be the bigger man. Really isn't worth it unless you really have to defend something. That's a different story. But to me, you decide what you're willing to die for, where your convictions lie on things, and just a day on the water because someone's being a weirdo about your inner tubes, whatever his deal was. Like, hey, don't push the guy down. Don't just whatever. Walk away yourselves. Same thing with him, right? What is he doing? What is this guy's deal? And I have to wonder if he was drinking too. I have to wonder, what was going on there and how you made such poor choices. Anyway, just a tragic event there. That must really suck. Friend's dead now. This guy's going to prison. Nobody won anything there. That's all I got to say about that. All right, guys. Well, that's what this channel is about. It's pragmatic ego management, or pragmatic ego mitigation, or whatever you want to put it. Both are M's. But the PEM podcast is all about that. Ego battles are pointless. They don't do any good. It's one of the reasons I walked away from a lot of things in my past. A lot of the times because I understood the consequences, thankfully, because I could have done some really stupid things. And I did do some stupid things when I was younger. Very lucky to survive some dumb things I did when I was a kid. When I used to carry guns with me at all times. There were times when I carried automatic weapons on me at all times because I grew up in a gang-infested area and I adopted this tough guy attitude. I was very lucky to not kill someone or be killed myself, find myself with a life sentence, or who knows what. I was very lucky. And being a young person, this light just went out, I don't know why. Being a young person is very dangerous. Being a young man, and I don't know if it's more dangerous to be a young man than a young woman. I don't know. But being a young man, I liken it to like a young rattlesnake. Young rattlesnakes are really dangerous because they don't ever do dry bites. They only bite with all their venom. They don't warn you. And that's why we talk about, how a juvenile rattlesnake is a dangerous thing. Juvenile human children are dangerous too because they don't understand the consequences of things. They're rather stupid. They're rather egoically brave and feel indestructible. And it's a very dangerous mindset. I don't know what excuse you can give that old man this, but the ego is a dangerous thing, and it's this trajectory that we go through as children growing up to adolescence. At some point, perhaps feeling like we know it all, or like I said, feeling sort of indestructible or superhuman, invincible, kind of going through that curve until something hits you. For me, it was when my dad died. When my dad died, I realized a lot of things, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I think that's the flaws in our parenting, the flaws in our society, the flaws on a lot of layers and levels, to where kids should be taught, that there are consequences in this world, and it's, to kind of put your ego in the back seat. In the Toltec tradition, of shamanism, a kid who's showing signs of being egoic and, showing those signs of being overly arrogant and refusing to listen, they'll take the kid and show him a dead body of a kid his age. And that's intended to show them there are real consequences and you need to think about what you're doing out here. Which I think we would think is child abuse now in our culture, but I don't agree with that. I think maybe, first of all, we sweep death under the rug way too much. We act like it doesn't exist, and I think it really is damaging to our society because death is a very real thing. And I think that's also why when my dad died, it was so hugely impactful because I hadn't experienced death prior to that. I mean, I had experienced some death. I had a friend who died. I had, but I had a couple of people, some things happened, but it just didn't feel real, I guess. I don't know how to put it. My dad died right there. I watched him go, and the coroner bus had to come and pick him up, and that whole thing. It had a real impact on me, I'll tell you. So, ego. Ego is a mindset of, kind of arrogance, but not always. Sometimes the mindset of ego is also self-pity. Ego is like a coin. It has two sides. It has the arrogant, look at me, I'm better than everyone side, and it also has the poor me, oh, everybody hates me, I've just got a crappy life side too. And they're both ego. And one's different than the other, but they both kind of lead to bad outcomes. And so the goal of ego mitigation is to reach a place where you're present in the moment and have a high degree of awareness and understand another thing, perhaps, which is my theory on life, is that we're all one. We're all part of the same fabric of this universe. So in a way, when you go out and haul off and start killing people, you're killing a part of yourself. And maybe that's, why my experience is karma is real. I was just talking about this with a friend of mine. I was in a hostage situation in 2007 where people were going to murder me and a few other people, including a young mother and her stepfather. Those people, their lives didn't turn out great. I didn't do anything to them. I didn't go after them. I didn't do anything. They went to Atlanta, sold what they stole from me for $100,000. They had a big score. Didn't work out for them. Other friends of ours that have burned people and repeatedly done things like that, they're like addicted to fentanyl now. They're on the streets. They're living crappy lives. The ego is a strange thing, guys. And the realization of what is our universe and what are we? What is our environment? What are plants and animals to us? What is this we're doing here? And I think we've fallen into the trap of thinking that we are separate from everything and that, we're at odds with each other and that we are enemies with each other. And our human species as a whole has really taken that confrontational conflict mentality at every level of our existence, with our environment, with our plants and animals, with each other, with everything. And then this is the results we have, is the society we live in today, which you can see how that's going. So I think that's all I'm going to say about that, guys. Don't let your egos get involved. It's not worth it. This is a perfect example of why it's not worth it.